KoitCast. Today's guest is an educator, demonstrator, spiritual advisor, and medium. For nearly 25 years, he has walked the path from meditation through to trance mediumship, and today finds himself helping people with his spiritual connections. Please give a huge Koit welcome to Mark Bedwood. Hi, Mark, and welcome to KoitCast.
Oh, welcome. Thanks for joining me. Oh, thanks for me being here. Well, if I get my words right, that would help.
I know what you mean, though, so thank you anyway. Right, let's kick off with who are you, where you're from.
All right, Mark Bedwood. I live in Perth, Western Australia. So I think we're about 8 hours ahead of you UK time, something like that. Gosh, been here 30 odd years, or perhaps a bit more than that now, 32 or 3 years, and over that time been working in lots of different areas of the spiritual field and helping people spiritually to grow, wake up, and find themselves in all sorts of ways through all sorts of methods. So really, how far do you want to go back? I think I go back to just before 2000, when my awakening process started to happen. And the whole process was really interesting because I ended up with lots of different experiences along the way of meditation and things, which I'm sure we're going to talk about anyway. But
Well, let's fire straight into that then, yeah. So let's just say, what was your paranormal journey? What was the creation point for you? So go through
all
it.
right. Okay. Well, I guess when you look back on things, it's really small experiences which start you off, you know. And I remember as a running a business that I had a lady who looked after my accounts who used to sit quite close to where I was. And I remember watching her. She used to eat a Twix bar. This is going to sound minor, but she ate a Twix bar and she could eat it and save half of it for the next day. And I thought, how do you do that? You know?
Yeah, that's blasphemy.
Oh, do that. Anyway, I ended up talking to the lady, and it turns out it was meditation and mindfulness. And that little thing started me on a journey. So I'm thinking I'm about 99 or 2000 around there, and began in meditation for long periods of time. And frankly, I was getting nowhere quickly in meditation. And I ended up taking a course in a Buddhist temple, which I just happened to drive past. We just happened to have a course starting that weekend, which I then signed up for and joined. And on the first day, I got the blessing of what felt like a drip of water on the top of my head, like quite a definite drip, not a gentle thing. And I thought I was under a leaky water vent or air conditioning. I thought something else was happening. And as soon as I realized it wasn't water or anything, I drifted away. I was gone. My journey took me away. I don't really remember what happened after then. And I then asked the teacher, and I said, "Well, what happened? You know, what was all this about?" And to cut a long story short, he asked the nuns and he asked the abbot, who's in charge of a bunch of temples, and it all came back that really they didn't know. And I carried on my meditation journey for a long period ever since then. So I'm 22, 3 years into the meditation process, and it happened 2 or 3 times, and a couple of times on my third eye, a couple of times on the top of my head, and every time it happened, there was a significant change in my realization, I suppose, and I began this journey of opening up spiritually, and I had experience after experience of understanding myself and understanding others and understanding life and what happened with life. It awoken various gifts in me. I did a bit of astral traveling. I started then an ability to understand people. I found I could see and talk to dead people. I found people were talking through me. And now I have people to do the same thing. And I don't teach from a book. I teach from experience and work with people based on the experiences I've had. And I now understand them. I understand the drip of water now, which I didn't understand before.
Okay, so what did you put that down to be, that drip of water? Because obviously the people around you, they didn't understand it, which is interesting, isn't it?
Yeah, it is interesting. And this was the awakening of my third eye. And if you look deep into the spiritual meaning of the third eye, beyond the chakras, etc., it is the start of seeing clearly. Not just seeing outwards, but seeing inwards. And interestingly, then I started seeing spirit not long after, but I also started looking at me. So the inwards looking was looking at me and my process about what I'm about and who I was and well, who I still am, and the way life works. And so it became quite a major part of my awakening, a drip of water on top of your head, and a
Mm.
lady, a Twix bar, and not eating the whole thing. And it takes you on this pathway of journey that now I see and I talk to spirit, and I have a communication with spirit backwards and forwards, and I understand process of life. I get my education through that process as well. And it's taken me onto such a level that now I have a concept of life meaning, and I help people with awakening and help people with development of intuition and any gifts that they have, ranging from talking to dead people in mediumship to astral travel, out of body experience, meditation processes as well, and understanding life and understanding who they are, which of course is a very generic term, I suppose, really covers a broad topic, but this really goes into the depth of who are you? What's life all about? Where did I come from? Where will I go? Is there
The big questions, yeah.
the big questions? And what am I? You know, and all this. And it's now a passion. No, but I don't feel like I work. You know, I don't feel
But
like
that's
I
exactly
work.
what we're all chasing, is it not? That exact thing, which you're
Yeah,
doing
well,
something where you don't feel like you're working. That's what we're after.
so it becomes a hobby which you do all day, every day, and
Mm.
it doesn't. I go on holiday and I'm still working, you know, internally. It doesn't mean I'm running formal structure, etc., but I still work. So I don't take a break from myself, if you know what I mean. So now it's my job is guiding people to a true spiritual connection, be it as whichever way they look at it.
Which
Mm.
is a noble goal. Right, I have a couple of questions for you. This drip, I know you will have pondered it down the years. Did you
Mm.
think it was an external force opening you from beyond or from wherever, or was it you evolving to a point where you popped open, so to speak, and then that drip was a pop from
Yeah.
inside rather than someone dropping something on you?
No, I get what you're saying, and I spent a lot of time on this process. And interestingly, I was talking to a lady who had exactly the same thing. Hers was on the crown of the head and on the back of her hand. And uh, there is a thing called Shaktipat, which is the blessing of a guru, which is gentle touch. Now, if you want, my guru wasn't physical and has never been physical. It's a non-physical being. And I don't believe any guru for any person is a physical being anyway. And that simple touch changes your perception. For mine was a touch from spirit, and it awakened my third eye. The one to my crown awakened the connection. And ever since, as I said, then ever since then, life changed and evolved in many ways. It's a very strange experience. The one that hit me on the third eye, um, I was actually sitting reading a book outside in my garden, and it felt like a jet of water hit me in the third eye, just here. Um, and of course, it jolts you, and you wonder what's this about, you know. And I thought the watering system had broken. I thought somebody had a hose pipe, and checked all this. There was no water on the floor. Um, and again, things changed yet again for me that time. So Three major changes in my life, and all were instigated by this drip of water. Twice on my crown, once on my third eye, and life's never been the same.
It's
Never been
amazing,
the
isn't
same.
it?
So I treat it as an external source touching me, as opposed to this internal within the body as such.
Yeah.
We could probably debate whether internal and external are really the same thing, but it really felt like coming from the outside, not from the inside. Mm.
Awesome. Well, I like that. I like that in a way even better because that suggests bigger things to me.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I may be wrong. They may be the same thing, like you mentioned, but we'll see. One thing I had in my head when you were telling me the story of the drip was that I don't know, some external being with a teat pipette, like dropping a drop on you. So, like, we're going to awaken him now, that sort of thing.
Well, I can understand you thinking that, and that's what it felt like to me at the time in a meditation in a Buddhist temple in the middle of a city, that this happens. And I say it wasn't a gentle touch; it was a definite knock, as if it was the knuckle of your finger rather than the tip of your finger. And of course, the brain tries to analyze it, and you can't.
Yeah.
You can't.
Wake up, Mark. Come on. Get up.
Yeah. You think it's something small, and you've calculated through your own rationale, but that just was never going to get me there. And
Mm.
even as the abbot of the temple and everybody else, none of us knew what it was. So.
And it's nice to keep it that way in some respects, isn't it? Because mysteries are great inspiration for our journeys. I always think because if you have, although I want answers to everything immediately, if you did, it's boring, and the journey is better with mysteries, isn't it? I think.
Well, it is with mystery, and it also encourages you to find out. So I
Mm.
think it took me 12, 15 years to realize what it was. Um, and in that time, there was three within that period of time. And now I talk to people about it and help. But there's many other experiences that people have of touch, and from the touch of those who are loved ones with them are not here, to the touch of well, something bigger and greater again.
Mm.
So
I want to briefly touch on meditation because a lot of the guests I speak to have that as part of their journey. And it's one that I don't really understand on a personal level. So, can you tell me what it is, what you do, and what you're trying to achieve by it?
yeah, I think it took me 10 plus years to understand what I was truly doing in meditation. Um, People think that it's a sit down, be quiet, let the mind be still, and then something happens, or you drift off into bliss or space or something. But that's not really the truth of it. The truth of it is your mind is constantly going to thought, and you want to bring your mind back under control and take it to where you want it to go. And you may want it to go into just concentrating, for example, on a mantra, or concentrating on your breath or the way you're sitting. So after a period of time, the thoughts do not bother you. So the thoughts can happen, yet I concentrate on the active awareness of watching them, not the thought. Slightly different. I'm not the thought, I am the thinker of the thought, if you would like. And if you concentrate on being the thinker, then the thought can go through or past your mind, and you can still retain the ability to be the observer of these thoughts, and they can drift past you and they won't bother you as much. And as you become more then aware of being just the observer, and the act of meditation is like strengthening a muscle that you would go to the gym to strengthen. And you constantly return your mind to what you want it to be focused upon. So as a result of that, then once you gain concentration and focus when you do activity, then you can hold concentration on whatever that activity is. And you don't fall into the distractions. I've got to remember to do this. I've got to call somebody, whatever. So you actually gain control of your mind, and you keep it on the focus, or keep it focused on what you want it to be focused upon. So in doing that, the act of awareness, you become the consciousness itself that watches what's happening in the world, but is unaffected by it. So, for example, that there was a lady 2 days ago, I think, who I'd been working with in meditation for a while, or meditation training. And she set herself a target of 60 days without a break, as in keeping the habit going for 60 days, not for 30 minutes each day. And she wrote to me and said, I've just managed 60 days. And 2 days ago, I went to a birthday party and somebody asked me what I do. And this person was angry with me, didn't agree with me, didn't like what I said, and was angry and obnoxious towards everything that I suggested. And she said, I just held my focus. I just watched her. And just as I watched her with whatever she said. I didn't react. And at the end of it, she said, the anger blew out of this lady over a period of time. All anger dissipates after a while. And she said to the lady, well, that proves to you what my practice is. I can hold peace even in the storm of your anger and frustration of me. And then I said, well, how do you do that? And of course, then the meditation journey may begin for that lady, you know. So you don't get caught in the emotions of the world, and you pick the emotion that you want, which is very difficult if you're not meditating, because you follow a habit of anger generates more anger, and you respond with anger, and you're not in control of where you are and the seed of emotion that comes to the surface. You pick another seed, and in her case, she picked peace. And again, going back to the temple that I was in, exactly the same process. Maybe I was about 10, 12 years into meditation. I walked into that temple one day, and there was a Chinese lion dance in the temple, which was incredibly loud. The main shrine was packed with a few hundred people, and but I could still feel the peace that was in the temple, even with all this noise. So you concentrate on what matters, you know, so you see beyond the physical world of noise and drama, and you see something that's underneath it. And what's underneath it, some people would say it's spirit, or your real self, or peace, or consciousness, or awareness, or whatever you want. And if that's important to you, why don't you just go there and stay with that, you know? People would say, well, love is important to me, or peace is important to me. Yet they spend more time battling with noise or with fear and pain. And how do you come back to that? And so the journey of meditation is picking which seeds you want to flourish in your being, peace or love, for example, rather than anger, frustration, and doubts. And when you're quiet, when you can be quiet for a period of time, you see so much more in life. You know, there's actually more here than you think. So, as an example, if you eat a peanut, you think it's salty, but a peanut's got so many other flavors in it, but we don't acknowledge them, you know. And of course, I'm taking a peanut, of course, with food in generally, and we're in a rush to swallow it and for it to be in our tummy, but the beauty of food is really when it's in your mouth, you know. But we spend so much time trying to swallow it and go on to the next bit, and we miss what's right in this bit. So meditation gives you the chance to be right there. There was a nice story that I was told once, that there was a Zen monk who happened to look after a child one day while the parents went to work. And he said he would agree to look after the child. He said, but the child needs to know that at certain times I meditate. And the child asked him, he said, well, what's meditation? And no matter what he said, she couldn't get it. And then one day, she had a bunch of her friends around, and it was a hot day. She said, "Can I have some apple juice?" And he said, "I've only got freshly squeezed apple juice." And he pours a glass, but then her friends distracted her, and she runs outside and then comes back to get the apple juice. But all the sediment has now settled, and the apple juice is almost clear. And she said, "What's happened to the apple juice?" And the monk said, "It's meditated. So all the sediment has jumped to the bottom and it's clear again." And then she understood what meditation was.
Yeah, that's a good little metaphor there. I like that one.
Yeah,
I
nice
do.
story, isn't
Yeah.
it? Hmm.
A quick thing on that peanut scenario because it jogs something in me. I'm a fast eater and I don't necessarily taste all the flavors because I am a quick mush it, eat it, let's go. What does that say about people that do that? Is that just a food thing that could be part of food behavior, or is that something else, do you think?
Uh, well, in your case, it would say that you need some more mindfulness, you know, mindfulness of what's actually happening. You know, if you don't do it right, you could end up with indigestion or all sorts of things. So if you actually took a little bit more time, you would enjoy your food more, but also you wouldn't eat as much because you're actually full. Do you know what I mean? And you don't necessarily need the next thing. And what is it that you're actually missing out on? Well, you're missing out on the present moment, and you're chasing the next moment or the next mouthful of food, or you're looking forward to the dessert or whatever's after dinner, and you miss the bit that's really there. So if you actually stand more into the present moment, you actually experience more of life and you feel more connection to life. And you hear the birds in the trees, you hear the rustle of leaves, you feel the temperature on your skin, and all of this you don't know about.
Mm.
The vast majority of life then you miss. And you miss because you're living tomorrow or whatever's next and not what is today. Um, and as a result, then you will find it also difficult to make a connection with spirit and hold spirit or find your true self that's behind there because your mind's always onto something else. So interestingly, the lady I said who was angry or confronted a lady that was angry, we were talking long and hard. She noticed in herself that her mind was always drifting to the future. And she was planning tomorrow. She was planning the next holiday. She was planning the next job. And she had anxiety. And she said, "I'm just not happy." "Why aren't you happy?" She said, "Because I can never seem to get to where I want to be." So we put a practice into her life and say, well, let's stop and let's smell and let's taste. Let's listen to the birds. Let's sit by the river and feel the breeze, and because all the senses bring you right back into the present moment. And as soon as you do it, there's peace. And how long can you hold that peace? Well, you can hold it just for a little while if you're unpracticed. If you're more practiced, you hold it for longer. And as soon as you find that peaceful process, then life opens up, and you can then start to feel love that is available. There is some beauty available. You feel very concentrated on where you're doing. You get connected with what's happening. So you can read a book and stay with the book.
Mm.
There's a gentleman in New York I'm working with, and I think he's 18, 19, and he's musical. And for him, his practice was listen to a piece of music, but just listen to one instrument. You know, so he liked orchestral music. So he said, listen to the violin for the whole of the music and just listen and listen to that. And he said, well, when I do that, he said, I have a greater appreciation for whoever is playing the violin. You know, for me, I did it with an old punky band, the Stranglers, and
All
if you
right.
listen to the bass player, you know, and all of a sudden you go, this guy's good, you know, but you may not even know it's there. You just hear the music, unless you focus, you may not even recognize it. Just listen to it and see what else is in the music. and it's exactly the same with life. You listen to life. There's a lot more in life than you think.
Yeah, a lot of small sounds that make up the orchestra essentially, and then you can focus on them. I can do that with music quite easy because I'm a musician and I like hearing certain things, specifically harmonies in songs. You know, when there's loads of voices, I like to pick out certain ones because I like to harmonize. But yeah, that's a good scenario. Meditation, is it like daydreaming? Is it the same sort of like mind area that we go into?
Um, if you start meditation as a practice for relaxation, you might want to use guided visualizations, which will help you with daydreamy feelings. But what they're actually doing, they're giving you something to focus on, and you'll be using your mind. If you want to go into deeper states of meditation, you have to leave the mind behind. So then guided visualizations and daydreaminess is actually in the way of deeper
Ah,
meditations. Yeah. But they're very useful right at the beginning because they will help you to relax, like listening to orchestral music, put your headphones on and just chill for a while. And that's valid. But if you want to go deeper, then really you've got to go through the mind and see what else is there. And of
that's a
course, that is
lovely phrase. That's a lovely phrase, that one, Mark, isn't it? It's deep.
uh,
See what else
deeper.
is
Go,
there. Yeah.
what else is there? So there's a beautiful exercise that you can do, which only takes 10 seconds. And that is you sit for 10 seconds and you say, I'm going to have 10 seconds with no thoughts. And when I'm with people, that's what we do. We do 10 seconds with no thoughts. And frankly, some people can only do 2 and 3 seconds before thoughts come into their life. And some people can go longer. So they come back from 10 seconds, say, what happened? So, well, in 10 seconds, I managed it. And I said, okay, let's do it again this time. And for another 10 seconds, what is there when there's no thoughts? Let's do 10 seconds. And the truth of what's actually there, well, I guess people should find out for themselves, but the truth of what's there is the consciousness is there, the ability to watch. It's not necessarily watching a thought, it's kind of open consciousness. So it's just ready for the next thing to arrive. And there's other things that start to open up, other sensations. So you start to hear very subtle thoughts, and you then start to feel feelings of peace and presence. So again, because as I was getting quieter in my mind and my mind was beginning to still, I suddenly realized that there's energy around me, feel the energy, and all of a sudden the energy changed. That's different. What's that then? What did that energy change? And then of course, who is it? What is it? What's going on in here, say, or wherever you was? What's happening there? So if somebody believes in spirit or non-physical parts of life, then your attention has to change from your internal world to the exterior world and find out what's available. And there's actually a whole side of life that people just do not understand or do not follow. Now, you see, I used to think that when mediumship opened up for me, and that it was some special gift that had arrived. But now I know it's actually a byproduct of meditation. That you can be in meditation and you can be still, and these perceptions you become aware of. And a lot more people have a gift in this way than give themselves credit for. Of course, other people have gifts that open up, as I said, out-of-body experiences and astral traveling, knowing knowledge, and all sorts of things can open. But if you don't know it's there, you'll never discover it. But if you let your mind be still, then kind of it discovers you. And it makes itself known to you. So I've discovered the true part of the process for me is there's like a body of knowledge which has no physical or non-physical form to it, that you can access and you can find information from, call it astral or etheric. And if you can just learn to tap into it, then there's other information that comes. Information that you can't know. You know things about you, but what if you knew things that are happening in other locations or other people's lives, or outside of general perception?
Yeah, and that's obviously a reference then to the Akashic records, which I want to get into a bit deeper later on if we can. Before we get into this side of things, I have one final question on your journey into where you are now, which is the selling up everything process. Oh, I read that from your website that you literally sold everything and then moved into this chapter of your life. Can you talk us through the selling up process, what that meant to you, and how easy was it to let go of everything?
Okay, let's go back 2005. Business is going incredibly well. I was a MD of 3 companies. I remember right at that time that it was one day I had a queue of people to see me. I had 3 phone calls on the go. I had 4 urgent messages and emails to do. There was a meeting in an hour that I hadn't done something for and needed to get done. And then at that day, my girlfriend at the time rang me. So I picked up the phone and said, I said, look, I can't talk now. And put the phone down. And I suddenly realized what is important in life. What's important? As I say, my meditation journey was underway around here. And to cut a long story short, that incident, I did speak to her about it, realized that what was going on. And she said to me, that wasn't the only time. I went, really? I didn't know. And again, cut a long story short, started the process of getting rid of everything. I closed one business down. I sold my share in another company to my partner, and I began the process of getting rid of selling the bigger company, and eventually it went and it sold. And that girlfriend that I was didn't last any longer, probably because I'd probably been ignoring her for a period of time. But that relationship ended. I ended up with roughly a pallet of furniture, just a pallet full, when previously it was a house full. I went, life has to change. So everything went, and then the journey of awakening started around that same time, because the drip of water was happening around then, and everything quit. And there's a lady again that I'm helping right with this situation at the moment, and for her, she's moving countries and getting rid of family and a relationship, and she's going through what she thinks is a tunnel of darkness. I'm leaving everything that was dear to me. And you ask her, well, why are you doing it? He said, well, I'm just called there. I know I have to go somewhere else. And which is exactly the same for me. And I quit everything. Everything went. I brought a backpack, and that was it. That's all I had.
That's amazing. Now, how did you feel though when you decided to let everything go and to move on? Did you feel relief, happiness, knowledge that you know you're going somewhere better, or was it a little bit of fear and trepidation?
No, well, you have fear and trepidation because you don't know what's around the corner. What am I doing? Where am I going? How will I earn money to pay bills, etc.? But then as you get rid of everything, if you've ever done any backpacking yourself for a period of time, you discover the less you have, the happier you are. Now, that's not the way our culture lives. Our culture says, well, the more you have, the happier you are. And then we go to certain countries where they have nothing, and you say, well, they've got nothing, yet they're happy. What's wrong with these people? Do you know? And the truth is, we in the, let's say in the West, have associated happiness with materialism, where the realization is happiness is not dependent on materialism at all. It's not dependent with how many television sets you have, how big your computer is, or anything else. But society tells us that's not true. You've got to have the latest, you've got to have the best, you've got to have the best clothes, whatever it is. And that's not the experience of it. So you get rid of everything, and happiness then becomes free. And I realize that every item of clothing, every book I had, every bit of ornament, which was once money and is now an ornament or whatever it is, I was actually carrying that in my energy. Now, you don't think you are. That sounds like a really strange thing. But when you get rid of it and it's gone, you've sold it or thrown it away, depending on what the item is, there is the dawning of freedom. And you feel lighter, and you feel better, and you feel so much happier, and you feel freer. You're not weighed down by ornaments and books, and then you can go and explore life and discover what it has. And for me, I went into temples, and I was meditating in temples. I found some Zen masters I was with. I was with silent retreats in Asia, and I've done so many different things, which was all part of this awakening journey. And so from a Western point of view, getting rid of everything was a disaster. But from an internal point of view, an awakening, it was a joy. It was beautiful. It was lovely, you know. And you don't realize how much you carry, and how much you think you need, but you don't, you know.
No, I
So
completely agree. I think less is more as well. I like to live as minimalist as possible. I mean, I have gadgets throughout my life, obviously, like everyone else who lives in the Western world, but I like the idea of less equals more. It's just so much. I'll tell you a story, actually, and this is not meant to big up anything or say I had loads of money or whatever back in the day, but I had quite a decent sports car years ago, right? I didn't really want it. My brother sort of talked me into it, but it was like a millstone around my neck because I was forever worried about it. Was it going to get damaged? Was it going to get broken into? This, that, and the other. And then events transpired that I then didn't have that car, and my life was immediately better because I didn't have it. You know, the worry was gone. I was that lighter that you were talking about. It's that.
yeah, yeah. A little bit of you was attached to the car,
Mm.
and saw you as you and car. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
Then this weight of this car disappeared, and you realize that's not who I am. You free yourself up from it. And we're talking about a car, which is easy to see, but it's much more than that. So if you think you judge yourself against your car or your car ownership, what are you doing about your thoughts, your mind, your emotions? Where are they being cleansed and cleared and released and freeing yourself? You know, I mean, people carry guilt and blame and shame and grief and everything else on their shoulders, but that's no different than the car.
Oh, I like that, Mark.
You know what I mean? So
Mm.
every morning you get up, you have a shower, and you wash your body. But how do you wash your heart and your mind? Well, meditation's the act of washing your mind, you know, not with water, but with silence and stillness and control. And you control your mind, and you work. You then start to see what mind is like without the burden of some of these compulsions, habits, routines, which people gain, and we all gain them. But what do you do about them? And what's available to you when you are free from them? No, and it really is a backpack of the mind, isn't it? That you carry all these things, and do you ever get rid of them?
Most
Don't.
people won't, will they? Yeah, but you should definitely. And you've given me a lot of food for thought on some personal scenarios here, so thank you. I think it's very worth it for me alone just there. Let's talk then about the Akashic records that you alluded to earlier. What is or are the Akashic records? And what can you give me any stories of how you've interacted with them?
Yeah. I'm going to take you on a bit of a different journey, I think, with this. And you must understand, this journey for me is not about reading a book or a scripture or anything else. This is my internal looking and what I discover. When you sit in meditation and you look at yourself, and you can be free with yourself without the burdens of having to follow habits and thoughts, you start to look deeper and become interested in, and let us say, in your mind. And you start to realize that within your mind, there's a state or part of your mind which is just pure watching and consciousness and can watch. So you're watching or using this watching ability now, your consciousness now, to watch the screen. And if you then follow, if I say to you, become aware of the sense of smell, and you activate your sense of smell here, and you start to smell what's in the room or around, there are smells in the room that you start to discover, coffee or bread or anything.
Or the dog down here, yeah.
And if we leave that behind, the smell, and I say, concentrate on hearing. You listen then with your ears, and maybe you'll hear birds and creaks and whatever else. So your consciousness then, when what it focuses upon starts to become real. You know, you're not aware of the sense of smell until you focus on it, or something, a big smell comes along. And then you focus on your eyesight, and then you focus on your hearing. And if you look at them, you suddenly realize that your consciousness brings them to life. So your sense of smell is not alive now until you think about it. And the same with hearing, and the same with when you watch your thoughts. So consciousness starts to bring it about. If you then concentrate upon the sense of, well, let us say, love, well, all of a sudden you can start to feel it. That love, heart seems to warm, feeling sensations here that starts to arise. You say, well, did I create that? Or was that already there? Now, that's a process of a journey you follow, and you suddenly realize that, well, love's already here. I've just got to focus on it, and it's available to me. So then I went to look at knowledge, and this is the journey into Akashic. So there's the journey of memory, which is what you did yesterday, etc. So you can focus on memory and remember as best as you're able events or circumstances, but realistically, you probably just remember shadows of them as the memory gets weaker. But then what if you actually put your consciousness onto a body of knowledge? Do you or can you know things which are not within memory? So is there anything available to you that you don't know? Now, again, to the logical mind, that sounds unreasonable, because how can you know something you don't know? It doesn't seem sensible. But if you place your consciousness onto knowledge that you don't know and ask for something, a little bit of information comes. And it starts with little bits of intuition, which all of us get. We get little bits of, I've just got to talk to Mary. You ring Mary, and Mary said, well, funny you called. I was just thinking about you. Kind of everybody's got similar type experiences. Well, within a logical reason, that doesn't happen. You can't do that. Because there's no memory. You don't know about something going on with Mary, and you don't know anything about what's happening, different people. So you start to explore it, or you would start to explore it. You start to be interested. So all of a sudden, then you start to pick up knowledge and information that are beyond your field of memory and recognition, beyond what you know. And then you can start to talk about things that you just don't make sense to begin with. They don't make sense to the rational mind. Some people then find that they can talk about people's lives in detail, which of course leads you to psychic and mediumship and intuitive work. But what if you spoke about events which are not in the future, haven't happened yet? So, for example, again, I was talking to a lady probably 7 or 8 hours ago, and she said to me, she said, well, when we last spoke 6 months or something ago, and she said, you told me that there's going to be a big crack in a country, and this crack is going to be so big, it's going to divide a country in half, and it's going to look like there's 2 different countries now, and it's going to be full of drama and problems, etc. And she said, I'm in disaster relief, and I was looking for an earthquake. And she said, it was only this morning, and that's why I'm ringing you. I suddenly realized it wasn't an earthquake. It was the American political situation, that there's a crack in the country, etc., which will presumably be healed in a period of time. How could you know that 6 months ago? No, how could you know that things like somebody's going to have a child or a baby or a wedding or something to come? Now, of course, that all sounds like, and it is future related, but what if you could talk another language? What if you could access knowledge which takes you into a different place? Now, you see, this wisdom mind accesses information which is not stored within the memory mind, or the memory part of the mind, and starts to open up into different possibilities and perceptions of what you can get, which becomes far deeper, and its application becomes quite broad. So at the moment, I've got a bunch of people I'm working with, and we're starting a premonition club. Can we predict the future? Which very interesting, because if we work it, I think we can. Then the prediction club's going to then start work out what's going on, what's going to happen. And as groups, you should be able to get a bigger and better accuracy rate, because everybody then is working on the same way, and it's a broader energy, etc. So Akashic records then, Akashic means ether, and if you like knowledge in ether, then this is the knowledge that you can access if you train yourself to it. So in Hinduism, and without thinking of it as a religion, they talk about the mind divided into 4 segments, and you have the conscious mind, you have the heart mind, you have this wisdom mind, but you also have then the ego, and the ego part, which is the perception of the false self. You think you are your car, for example, and as you start to go deeper again into meditation, what you tend to discover is what's left over. The wisdom mind seems to fall away in terms of it being an action, and it becomes just a body of knowledge that's available, and what's left is your consciousness and your love. And you discover yourself to be just the loving awareness that can watch. And that awareness then can focus onto knowledge, or focus onto senses, or focus onto information you don't know, and you then start to discover that love and awareness and knowledge is always available
To everyone, presumably.
to everybody, do you know? But you've just got to go through the motions of understanding it and let your mind be still and find it.
Right, so that knowledge, the Akashic records, what do you think it is? Is that like, is it the answer to everything possible ever is in there, and it's just a consciousness field that we then tap into, so to speak? Or do you think it's something different to that?
Well, what I've, again, I'm talking from experience, not from anything else.
Okay.
If you sit and you can access what's available, you can find out anything about everything that's existed over a period of time. Some of it's not practical. You know, do you want to know what happened 100 years ago on a Tuesday? Maybe that's not practical to you, but yet that type of information is available. Every thought is available to people because thought is an energy that just keeps flowing. It doesn't stop. You think it goes from one ear to the other in here somewhere, but energy doesn't stop flowing. You don't destroy energy; it just keeps going. So it goes out into the ether, and then somebody else thinks the same thought. That's an interesting concept in itself as well. You know?
That's the radio trans receiver sort of thing, isn't it?
Yeah, kind of. Well, if you think of your television set, you turn your television set off, but the television channel is still sending the signal to it, isn't it?
Mm.
But the television's turned off, so there's no picture. Well, why don't you just access that knowledge, that flow of information? Do you know?
Yeah, no, I love the idea of it. I just wonder how. I mean, I'm thinking logically here and scientifically. How physically is it made up? What makes that etheric field of knowledge? Was it always there? Did it come into being through consciousness, like humans were evolving and thus projecting more knowledge out, and it's like building up over time? Is it that sort of thing? I don't know.
If you go back to, I don't know, let's say 500 years ago, hypothetically, the ability for X-rays was there, but people didn't have certain other factors or the attention span to go looking for it. But that information, that knowledge was waiting, wasn't it?
Mm.
No, it had to be because it's not been created. It's just always available. So in that regard, then knowledge for tomorrow is already available today, or knowledge for 100 years' time. It's here somewhere. Where is it? Well, in some cases, certain things have to fall into place. But what if you could access that?
And what's your prediction club come up with? Have you come up with anything that you think, oh, that's amazing?
It's actually starting in 2 weeks.
Oh, sorry.
Everybody is experienced with it that's joining this already with predictions and premonitions, and we're also looking at manifesting and see if we can create things to happen, and we create it through intention. Now, there's nobody there or nobody that's coming that doesn't think it's possible. Can we control it, refine it, develop it still further, and make it bigger and better? There's nobody coming that's in any doubt that it can be done. We've just got to refine it, make sure how does it work? What's the best way for it to be worked? And interestingly, I'm teaching the class, and I'm not teaching it based again on a textbook. I'm going to Akashic Records myself, or this body of knowledge, and saying, this is the way we've got to make it work.
Well, I hope that's a massive success for you and you get some really good whatever is out of it.
Yeah, well, to begin with, we've all got experience of this happening already in small parts. You know, small bits, we can make it happen. And as I said, when there's a group together, it should magnify. So there's no reason why it shouldn't be any bigger. There was a physicist that came who's doing an experiment and creating a business based on this experiment. And he said to me, look, I want to access my intuition more. Can you help me develop my intuition? I said, why? He said, I just want to know certain things when I'm doing these experiments to find out which is the correct way for it to work. He told me it's an experiment, and I said, you've got to put that at 51 degrees. And he looked at me and he said, do you know what you're talking about? I said, I haven't got a clue. I said, no idea. Do you understand why 51 degrees is important? He said, we can't get this thing to work and we're at 52 and I don't know why it's not working. I'll try it. Now, I've got no perception of why this is. So this is the guy that now changed his experiment. It's actually an angle of a cut of a crystal, and has cut it now to 51 degrees. And he said the energy rate that's now going through this has gone up by a certain percentage. I can't remember what. I don't know physics. I don't understand it. And before he came to me, he tested me and said, well, can you help me with this? Yeah. And I described a formula. And again, I have no experience of this at all. He said, do you know what you've just written? And I said, I haven't got a clue. I'm just seeing whatever it was, you know. It says that's Tesla's formula. And that formula's on my desk and blah, blah, blah. And that's what I'm working with to help with this or something. Well, I've never seen Tesla's formula. I don't know. Now, things like that can sound very grand, you know. But the way I look at it, it's purely because my mind goes still and I'm open to it. Rather than being limited of, let's say, thoughts and habits and following certain pathways, which I've always done before, do you know? But when you break your habit and break what you've always done, then you step a little bit out of your comfort zone. When you step out of your comfort zone, well, you've got new information can come, can't it? You know, if you go to a new place and wear a new colored clothing or whatever it is, something else happens. So you start then to feel uncomfortable, but new things arrive to you. So if new things arrive to you, well, that's the premonition club, isn't it? Do you know what I mean? We break the habit. Can we then see what this bit will be like? Kind of makes sense. And we then get into the uncomfortable zone, and that's where you grow. As you step further out of your comfort zone, that's growth zone. So if I'm going back to the mind bit, so we've got 4 segments of the mind. We've got the conscious bit, we've got memory, heart mind, we've got a wisdom mind, and we've got the ego. And what I discovered was the false self of the ego starts then to collapse, and you reveal more of your true self. Your true self starts to open up. And this is the process of awakening.
And that leads me to this very next question, which is a service you offer, actually, discovering someone's purpose, which I imagine is part of the true self of someone once the ego is let go of. This is a service you offer to people. How is discovering someone's purpose achieved, and can you give any relatable stories from that process?
Okay. I believe deep inside here already you know your purpose, you know, and let us say society and habit has taken you off purpose. So, for example, a story that I explained to people, there was a guy that comes and sits with me and says, is an accountant. And I said, okay, great. Why are you an accountant? He said, well, to be honest with you, when I was a child, I loved cooking. And my parents said, well, don't be a chef, be an accountant. Being a chef's kind of bad hours, not enough money, blah, blah, blah. Accountant's kind of nice and logical and ordered. I said, so I became an accountant. He said, I'm bored to death. Okay, well, why don't you become a chef? Of course, this is a longer process than it sounds. I said, okay, I'll become a chef. So eventually we had to go through all the resistance of becoming a chef. He's going to lose, a certain income, and he's now going to have to work weekends, etc. So he starts to become a chef, and I saw him afterwards and said, how are you getting on? He said, I've never been happier. Why? He said, because I don't work anymore. I'm just doing what I love. Okay. So I think a lot of people should discover what they love and what their inner calling is. And for some people, it's difficult to find. We've got to dig deeper and deeper. And other people, it was kind of just underneath the surface in his case, But unless you look, you will not find. So I come along to sit with somebody and say, well, let's focus your mind a little bit here. Rather than into routine and habit, let's have a look what's underneath routine and habit. And then we discover something else. There's a lady who was a yoga teacher, and she was also a counselor, was trying to look for what she really wanted to do. And we looked at the whole process of her life, right from a child. What did you love to do as a child? What do you love to do now? And what are your strengths, etc. And you can come up with a logical answer, but the logical answer will only ever sit within mind, and we want to go to heart. We want to go to heart, and I want people to talk from their heart, not from their 1 + 1 = 2 logical side of their mind, because it'll only ever get 2. So if you talk from the heart and ask somebody to talk from their heart, you can actually hear their passion in their voice, because they're heart-based, or at least this talk is heart-based. So you look for what then gets their heart to switch a little bit and to turn on, and then we start to explore that bit there, and find out what's truly into that part. What if you could work with food? What if you really could do that? I'd love it, but what if you could? And we got to then kind of put it in a little package. And for the first guy, as I said, it was a simple change. Well, it wasn't so easy, but it's an easy to see change. Difficult to do when you're earning big money as an accountant, and I'm giving it all up to work weekends and nights and not see, I don't know, a social life for a while. But people do it. As I said right at the beginning, I kind of sold everything up, quit. I went traveling for a bit of a while, sat in temples, monasteries, and caves for a while, and even literally in caves.
I can't leave that there, Mark. This cave story, you have to quickly tell me that now.
There is a cave story, but let's come to that in a second. Okay. So if you follow your passion, then it doesn't matter if you're in a cave or a monastery, or you just don't want to be in a completely the opposite. Let's say a penthouse in the city. It doesn't appeal to you anymore because there's more freedom in a monastery. It sounds illogical to the Western mind, because we associate assets with happiness. When you go to a monastery, how can they be happy? They've got nothing, They're wearing a cloth, and that's about it. So that's what I did. I went down to absolutely nothing. I just had a pair of shorts, 2 t-shirts, and that was it. Maybe a toothbrush, and kind of that was it. I got rid of absolutely everything. And literally my backpack here was kind of like a small little thing that I was just carrying around. And I thought to myself at the time, if it's true, the happier you are, the less you have, is this true now? And I found I could spend in peace. quite easy. I could just be in this little remote place on the edge of a village, and people would come and they would feed you. You think, well, where's the logic in that, you know? But it happens. And we think you can't get through life without without a car and a bunch of clothes and a television set and a dishwasher and a kettle and a whatever. Well, try getting rid of it and seeing what happens. And the test comes when somebody loses their health, you know, something semi-serious, shall we say. Do they not say, that's not important anymore? Do you know? And I say, what's important now is my health, my connection, the love of my family, my children, etc. And if that's true, then they didn't need, but it didn't need the dishwasher and the coffee machine and the kettle, but it did help make their life easier. But it's not important. There was a guy. Right? I've got a bunch of friends, and there's 5 brothers, and they're all don't believe in what I do.
Okay,
that's fair enough. I don't mind that because I see it healthy. You know what I mean? As long as they're not obnoxious towards it, I find it healthy. We have healthy conversations. They disagree, you know, and that's fair enough. And one day, one of the guys was decided he was going to take euthanasia because he couldn't be cured what he had. And he ended up, as he's stepping towards this, he was probably 6 months away from this final decision at this time. He was living his life, and his mother-in-law was living with the family. And the mother-in-law used to say, said, the remote control to the television is there, and yet she calls me from the other room and it's sitting right next to her and changes the topic. She calls me, she says, I want tea, I want coffee, I want dinner, and it drives me crazy. She said she argues with everything, she's demanding. And she said, I can't stand being with her anymore. And he had this out-of-body experience prior to his death, and he came back with this feeling of beauty and love. I said, even my mother-in-law, who I've been so off with for a period of time, I can love her. Eventually, it takes another few months, and he comes to the end of his life and euthanasia, you know. I don't think euthanasia is legal in England, but it's here. And it's not a simple process, as you probably can imagine, you know, a bunch of forms, double checking, you know, are you sure? Are you really sure? Are you sure you're sure? And it comes to a certain point then that you no going back, you know, and you have a couple of little drinks, and the final one that's kind of the big drink, you know, and you're gone and you disappear. So it was a very kind of traumatic time around there. And I remember that I went to see him, and I kept going to see him to talk it through about what's happening, what's going to happen. And now all of the other 4 brothers come. They come to see me, and we chat about, Chris is here. You know, I see what's going on, and they tell me, and he tells me about their life, you know, the brother's life, what's going on in their life. And they've gone from being fun but disagreeable to now accepting that there's more to life than flesh and blood, you know. And it's changed them in this process. His mother's come, his wife and his children have all come, and they've all spoken about things I've spoken about things didn't know. And that, to me, it's not because I had a gift of mediumship. It's not, I didn't see dead people at the end of my bed when I was 5, you know. I didn't know what was going to happen to somebody, and etc. None of that. it woke up in a state, because of a state of meditation, that I just knew things. I knew things about people. I knew things about their life, and I knew things about what was happening this way. But if all of that stopped, it stopped tomorrow for whatever reason, and I don't know anything about, let's say, about the dead, you know, it doesn't matter, because it's not my path. My path is viewing inwards, finding me, and finding this loving awareness, and being in this loving awareness of what I am. This gift that came because of meditation comes to me and may go again, and it would be a shame if it does, but that's so be it. The awakening of who I am has given me 1,000 more gifts than that. Just to be in the ability to help somebody to be connected to life now. Come back into your life. Can you taste the peanut? Do you know, what does grass feel like? So this lady I said who was confronted by the angry person, she's a gardener. And she's now doing an experiment. She said, that we worked out, I said, if you put your hands in the soil when you're planting something, can you tell what chemicals are missing in the soil, what it needs? A bit of, I don't know, a bit of lime, a bit of this, a bit of that. Can you tell by just putting your hands in it? Said, well, no. Are you sure? Now, of course, so the logical mind, you think, no, you've got to do a test, you know what I mean? Take a bit, put it, whatever you do it, you know, I don't really know. But the expansive mind knows more than you think it knows, and can access information that is not within memory or within logic. So she's running this experiment. Can I tell what's wrong with soil by touching it? Now, this sounds like an episode from Avengers or all that stuff, you know, all these superpowers people can have.
Soil man to the rescue, yeah.
But in theory, it's possible. But well, the experiment's underway right now, so I can't tell you just yet. But if people can tell you what's wrong with your body, you've got an ache here, you've got a pain there, you've got whatever's going on, just by being with you and sitting your energy. And I know this to be true. I'm with people all day that do that. Well, then they must be able to tell what's wrong with soil. It's probably less complex than figuring out what's wrong with the body, you would think. So I take knowledge, or the access of knowledge, and try to push the boundaries a little bit and explore. And I don't know how many will work and how many won't work. But if you can sit with a physicist and tell him his experiment is wrong without knowing what experiment is doing or what's going on, and then it proves that it is correct, what you told him, there's something going on.
Oh, 100% there's something going on. Now, a couple of questions that came to mind, the whole discovering someone's purpose thing. Obviously, clearly, you seem to have found yours. You're in a place where you feel at home, etc. And you've helped that other guy, the accountant guy. How many people have the similar story of their parents pushed them into something that they didn't really want to go into, but they kind of had to put food on the table? And then opens the bigger question, how many people around the globe are in the wrong job, so to speak, for them? It must be the vast majority.
Yeah. But there's actually another way of looking at this, right? And of course, what you're saying in theory is true. You know, most people are doing things out of habit rather than doing things out of passion and purpose. You know?
Yes.
Why? Well, you said society and parents push them away, and that's not wrong. But it's also that they have followed a standard pattern of habit that they've developed over a period of time, you know. So give you an example, my niece, when she was, I don't know, 10 or something, she got bitten by a dog, and she was scared. She didn't like dogs. So we spent a little bit of time together and we was talking about it. Is this true? Is every dog going to bite you? Do you know? And anyway, so we then worked through it and tested it and see if it was right. And now she has 4 dogs. Okay. And she wrote to me, she said, I have missed out for 30 years on the pleasure of having a dog. And now I've got 4. And she said, they give me joy every day. So that's an example of somebody, again, that kind of follows a habit. And really, there was something else, you know. So I grew up in a family that my mother, and because of my mother, my 2 sisters, was scared of water because my mother was scared of water. She got pushed in when she was a young child, you know, by a brother, I think it was. Of course, she had panic and problems, so she was scared of water. So her two daughters also grew up with this fear of water. Not for me, though. You know, I ended up becoming a good swimmer. I enjoy water, do you know? But if you can take that and look at yourself right and see what is your habit and just what you've always done, then you can start to look at these other choices. And you can start to look at different ways. Well, hang on, is that true or not? Is it true that I should be scared of dogs or water? Is it logical? But have I just been told this? You can go and see somebody who'll guide you through looking at, you know, your purpose potential, but you can also do a bit of it yourself. And a bit of it yourself is watching yourself, watching your mind and following your habits, you know. And you see people's beliefs and fears and pain being played out into their life, and they don't see what is true beyond it. Well, this is what meditation does for you. It kind of breaks pathways. Remember the lady who was confronted by the angry person? Well, her natural instinct was to fight back or to speak back. But if she stopped, she actually educated the other person and chose peace a different way. Or chose a peaceful response, you know. Well, it's exactly the same with everybody else on all sorts of different aspects of life. So can you be peaceful? Can you find what's there? Is there another possibility? So one thing, a good way of making a decision is you think, should I go right or should I go left? And if you wanted to write it out, well, I could go left, I could go right. Let's write down all the other possibilities. You know, I could stay where I am, I could move forward, I could go backwards, I could go up, whatever it is. And this just opens your mind into perception of other things. And then if it's true, your 2 choices are left and right, and there's this third way in front of you, well, that appears to be then that knowledge that you didn't know before, that you followed. A guidance pushes you on a different way. And you discover something else. And in discovering something else, then a whole new part of life opens to you. So if we go back to this 4 parts of the mind, and you discover that you can just watch life, and there's a consciousness that just watches, and this is the bit that goes on beyond death. As the body falls away, the consciousness carries on, and if you can just watch life, whatever experience you have, you're just watching it. Consciousness just watches it. And again, think of the lady with the argument. She just watched. She watched the experience, and some other bits of, call it guidance if you want, of saying, well, I retain my peace. You were angry. That looks like that she learned a decent level of her own understanding in the process. No?
Well, probably both did, yeah.
Yeah, they both did. I mean, again, it sounds like a dramatic example, but you go to the supermarket and you can actually choose the way you act or react to the people in front of you. So only just last weekend, I'm in the queue on this thing, and we're waiting for the person in front, and the person in front's really slow, and
And you want to
it's just
kill them, yeah?
things to do. And she's got two items, right? And it eventually comes to her turn, and she picks the items up, and I'll go somewhere else. What's wrong? I've never used this machine before. Okay, let me show you. So I showed her how to do it. It wasn't complex, you know. So that's exactly the same story as the angry person, slightly different way. But then a choice in the way to respond to somebody is very different, isn't it? You know,
Yes.
I could go away. I'm busy. Do you know what I mean? I want to get through as quick as I can. Is there not more love in the air then? Do you know what I mean? Or more compassion or whatever when you say, I will show you. Do you know?
Yeah, you made what most people would call the right choice, which then begs the question, is it a right choice or is it just a choice? Because the other way, if you had acted angrily, is that the wrong choice? I don't
Yeah,
know. There's a number of ways of looking at it.
yeah, of course. Then is anger a better response than love and compassion?
Well, many would argue no.
Of course. And then forget about how it helps the other person. How does it feel inside you? Now, if you have the angry response, you'll regret it for maybe 5 minutes, 10 minutes, or whatever. But if you have the loving response, maybe you'll enjoy it. And it makes you feel better that I've helped her, you know? So I could look at it from a selfish point of view. I helped her to make me feel good. Yeah. So what's the error in that?
There is no, and it's also actually bigger than that anyway. I know you know this. It's like you help her, in theory, she'll feel better for the day, and she might then help somebody else along the way. So it's a knock-on effect, isn't it?
Of course, you know, and I'm sure there's many stories of that. But it starts as a small story that we just said, you know, helping the lady in the checkout prior to you, and that helps you feel good. Maybe she goes on to do something herself. Um, but what you're doing, you're accessing love that is internal to you. Yeah. Which is that loving awareness. I said that love is always there. And you're reinforcing yourself in your who you really are, as opposed to the angry self, which is not who you are, and it's temporary. You
It's in
know,
the
it
way,
comes
isn't it? Yeah.
in the way. And when you have a love in your heart, you see love in the world, don't you? You know, if you're an angry person, then there's anger everywhere and frustration everywhere. But if love in your heart, you see it everywhere. And then everything looks a little bit different. And so then this becomes a reinforcing loop, you know, like love goes outward, you see it in the world, and eventually love comes back to you, and it reinforces itself.
Yeah.
It's because what you've done, you've controlled your mind, you picked a better option, as opposed to an angry option, um, and the world becomes a slightly brighter place. But that little bit of peace may come up with love, or it may come up with something else. But because if you let your mind be open to Akashic, to knowledge, to wisdom, something else can come in. And it's surprising what does come in.
You know, I was thinking about the whole, uh, should we say, musical chairs of jobs, right? You know, earlier you said about the lady who was doing yoga that didn't really want to be in that job. She wanted to do something else. It's interesting because you find that then a lot of these stores where people are in the accountant type jobs that want to move into the yoga type of jobs, yeah? It makes you think of like a massive wheel with loads of spokes where every spoke is a person, and we're just to shift out. Imagine if that wheel did turn and everyone clicked 2 clicks to the left or 2 clicks to the right, then moved into their job. That would change. Would that not change everything?
Hmm. You're looking at it on a big scale.
Yeah, big scale.
Yeah, but you and I. we can't change everybody in their life.
No.
Do you know what I mean? What you can do is just work with what you are. And then what happens is somebody asks you, why are you so happy? Do you know? Why have you got going on? And this is what happens to me all the time. That's why I then guide people to do it themselves, to wake up, to feel the sense of choice. So it doesn't have to be about your career, which is what your diagram was alluding to. And it doesn't career. What if it was you just picked more peace? Would the world be a different place if everybody had a little bit more peace or a little less attachment to various things? And then there feels more contentment. Don't we breeze through life easier? Doesn't life kind of conform to us a little bit? Do you see what I mean? And so then you kind of start to think, well, where's the boundary of me? Is it my skin? Is that my boundary? Do you know? Am I kind of in here? But if I'm alluding to helping other people out there or knowing something that's happening in another place somehow, well, how can I do that? And unless you look, you don't know. So you've got to start to look and find it. So although your example was about career, well, there's bigger things than career. It's you. Do you know? You in here. And career is just one expression of you. Hobbies will be another expression, etc.
Right. I agree with all that, by the way. Discovering someone's purpose is one of the services you offer, and also releasing repetitive behavior, which I imagine is going to go down a similar sort of like route to how you get to the heart of things and then resolve it. I mean, we all have our vices. I'm not going to say 100%, but majority of people have our vices. How can we release repetitive behavior?
Yeah. First thing is to know that you have it. You know, and when you can start to see yourself and see that when this happens, I do this. Well, as soon as you see it, you have the choice of change, don't you? Do you know what I mean? Oh, I don't have to do that. Do you know? So you start to watch your life a little bit and watch yourself. And then this tells you a myriad of things, what hurts you, what your trigger points are, which may tell you about your past, etc. But the secret is bringing your awareness to watch your life. And people can't do it. They can't do it because they don't give themselves time to do it. They just, every Friday they do this, and every Monday they cook a certain food, etc., and they follow certain habits, and maybe they go in certain places all the time and wear certain things. And they say, well, do you always wear black? And as soon as you say that to somebody, do you always wear black? I bet you next time you see them, they're not. Right? Because all of a sudden think, oh, yeah, I do. And now you haven't asked them to change. You've just brought them awareness to where they are, and the change takes place by itself.
Yeah, because they're paranoid that you're watching their clothing and taking a spreadsheet.
So in some of the groups and classes, there's exercises that come up, and the exercise is, I don't know, do this, watch what happens. Not change yourself, just watch what happens. And then you start to see a little bit of way this exercise is unfolding, or maybe the way you act and react, and then the option of change. So with awareness comes change. You know, when you watch, you have the option of changing. Again, really, when you think about the guy, accountant and chef, you know, his awareness to it gave him the option of change. Well, maybe I can change. Maybe I can be different. The angry lady, well, maybe I don't have to react with anger. And so other possibilities come. And then, of course, life opens up. So people have habits which they create over the last few weeks and months, but they have habits which they had from a child, like all dogs are bad, you know, because I got bitten. I can't go to water, etc. with my parents. And is it true? Is that true or not? Or is it a belief? So there was a lady, right, sits in this chair just here, and she's come to see me, and she says, last week my boyfriend said I am the best thing that's ever happened to me. He said, I cannot believe my luck. And she said, and last night he said to me, get back into the gutter where you belong. I never want to see you again. He said, what happened? What happened? What did I do? And she said, I've got here to talk to you about it. And I said, I don't even know how I got here. My mind's a fog. I said, I've got to go and pick my kids up from school. And I said, I don't know how I'm going to get there. And then I've got to do dinner. I can't even think about dinner tonight because I'm that full of this WTF. And I'm going, what the? And I don't even know who I am. And she's right in that pain, isn't she? You know, she's in the pain of this emotional breakup that was happening and all the turmoil and all the agitation that's going on, that she couldn't think straight. I remember asking her and saying, is it true you're in pain, or do you just believe you're in pain? Now, when she's right in the thick of the jungle, you can't think, you know what I mean? As she was saying, she can't think of it. But if you step back from it a little bit, and if you're not in that circumstance or have any emotional attachment to that circumstance, you can look at her from a distance and see that she's living a period of her life in this emotional turmoil that's very difficult. But her life will carry on. She'll be okay. She'll move on. Whatever will go on. She'll figure out what's for dinner tonight, you know, and she will pick the kids up. But she's holding that pain in her heart and in her mind, and she can't think right. But the truth is, underneath it, she's not disturbed at all. But her mind and her heart are in such trauma that she can't get to that truth. She can only get to this truth of, can you see that? Can you?
It's the noise, isn't it? Yeah, yeah.
Can you see her situation? Can you relate that she wasn't injured at all but felt it? Yeah. Well, if you can relate to it, it's exactly the same for you. Not with such a big trauma that she was going on, but why don't you change jobs and change careers? You're not going to be hurt. Why don't you do what you really want? You're not going to be damaged. And that guy, you know, he lost a big income. Another lady, she in New York, she was an IT senior manager. She was, I think she said she was, I don't know, 180,000 a year or whatever. And she said one day, she said, after the conversation I had with her, she said, I quit my job. I moved to a town of 5,000 people. Said, I now sell candles. And she said, some days I struggle to pay mortgage, sorry, I can't pay my bill. I'm a bit late. I said, but you had that big money before, you know, and now you got no money. I said, don't put that in the testimonial. The little job. We laugh, but I said, are you happy? She said, I've never been happier. She was caught in the trauma of a career that she didn't really like, but she was kind of caught in that lifestyle and needed to find a purpose, a passion, and move to 5,000 people, everybody knowing everything about everybody. And she said, never been happier, selling candles, making candles for a living. And she's beaming.
Goes to show that money doesn't mean anything really, and it never does to me. It's a spending token, isn't it? And I know you have to have it to live. That's the realities of the earthly plane on which we live. But it doesn't mean anything, does it? Because you can't take it with you. You know, it means nothing.
No. So why don't you concentrate on what you can take with you?
Yes, which is this and this. You know.
Yeah. Well, you'll take me.
Yes.
You'll take your real self. Yeah. So why don't you be real self today, as opposed to this self who I think I have to be. Do you know? But I'm not really happy.
Mark, do you know what I
Whatever.
think you are? And this
What?
is not, I'm just going to a throwaway comment also, ultimately, but you're like to me, you're a nudge person. And I mean this with all due respect, right? It's like I'm a big proponent or believer in the nudge theory, right? So something's happened to people to move them onto a different path, and that we'll call those accidents or interventions or whatever else. But you're a nudge that means to be there. So people come to you to get nudged off in a different direction.
Yeah, yeah. And
Do you
the
think of yourself like that or not?
but I don't use that word and terminology, but if you look at it slightly different, I do. And I don't do a nudge person from a physical sense. I do it from a non-physical sense. And the non-physical means I push you to come and realize yourself, come back to who you are. Don't look at your pain, look at what's underneath you. Don't look at your need to anger, look at your truth that is. Find what's there for us. Come back to truth. Don't go to the I have to do this because my parents told me water was terrible, do you know, or
Mm.
because of an incident before. Is that true? Come back to the truth. So you could say it's a nudge thing, but you could also say it's another thing, and that is, which is the terminology I like. But in essence, you're right. Is that just a reflection of truth? Just be true. You know, truth to you and true to what you are and who you are.
More of a
And it's
mirror
a
then.
mirror. And it's more of a journey. It's not a simple. When you said nudge, it made me think of a pinball machine. But
Yeah, I was thinking the same thing.
yeah, but this is a mirror, a reflection of what the truth is underneath it, and say, well, if I'm it, you're it. You just don't know you're it. You're playing another game at the moment, thinking that's what you got to be and got to do. Okay, well, carry on playing it if you want to. But then they say to me, or many people say to me, yeah, I can carry on playing it, but I know that there's more to life than that. Okay, now you're ready. Come, let's talk. And it's those people I work with, the people who come and say, there's more to life than this. And maybe they've earned $1 million and they go, now what? Maybe they've lost $1 million and they go, I've got nothing. Okay, now you're ready. And you're ready to explore it. So for me, it was through meditation which opened these gifts. And the gifts are good, but really they've just led me to this bit where I say to people, come home. Come home. And $1 million a year in a job, well, nice, but you matter more than that.
Completely agree. I got four big questions for you before we move into the Koit zone and wrap this up. So a big question for you. Why are we all here, do you think?
Ah, well, if you go back into the conscious space, your whole question's based on first, who am I, and what is this game we're playing? You know, or what is
Hang
life?
on, yes.
Do you get it? Um, and again, through my own experience, I am the watcher. I watch, I'm conscious awareness, and I watch this play. And in watching it, I know that it's generated by where I put my attention. So remember, if I put it here or here or here, that's what comes to life. And that attention is driven by karma and desire. So if you've got a passion for, I don't know, music, we said, then you start to see the world of music and you follow the violin or the trumpet or the guitar or whatever. And that's your world. That's the way you see your world. You know, you look at it through the eyes of music, you know, and maybe you look at it through the eyes of finance over in this part. But if you stopped being a music person, does your life stop? That's it. That's the end of your life, you know. No more music tomorrow for whatever reason, you know. No, it doesn't stop, does it? You know, you just then become I don't know, a chef or whatever you become, you know. And so you think you're the music person, but you become the chef and you become whatever else it is. And so you can watch life play out. And again, from my experience, I watch it with love in my heart. And it just keeps revolving on. But I'm not caught in it. I'm not caught that I have to be a music person, or I have to have a flash car, or I have to be this gift of mediumship, you know. I don't have to be any of that. But the consciousness carries on beyond the death. The body will drop, whatever day, but I won't die. And I just see that it carries on. I've seen it. I've been there to it, you know. And I'm sure the people you talk to have had body experiences or near-death experiences will tell you exactly the same thing. So you're here because of the play of desire and karma that's playing out. And interestingly, this is right at the point of a group that I'm teaching and working with, that the whole play keeps on going in existence, but you don't have to be part of it. Did I answer your question, or did I just give you?
I think you came back to it with karma and desire. It sort of answered it in a slightly ambiguous way, but it gets you to think more, doesn't it? By using that.
Yeah, we'd need to spend longer on the topic.
It's a big question. I know it's impossible almost.
Yeah, I can only answer it through my experience of where I've been. I've studied different scriptures and the wise man and whatever else you want to call it. And they all point back to the same thing.
Here's another thing for you then, and it might be exactly the same answer because I might be asking the same question, but in just a different verbiage. Why is there this connection from we'll call it the spirit world, this other plane, to here? Are we
Why is
because we are there and then we're using this as this karma desire process? Is that what it ultimately is?
think of yourself as consciousness that watches, and then you develop this identity that your ego says, I am a musician. Music, can't
That
say it,
word,
you know.
yeah. Yeah.
And then you create this identity around music, so you can't say it again. And then you live that life and you perform a certain way. Maybe you wear certain clothes and you do certain things. This is the definition of ego, a false self. Because as soon as the music stops for whatever reason, you become a chef person or something, and you wear that identity of it. So the false self, the belief that I am this person playing the guitar, just so I don't have to say the word again, that's the bit that will die. Do you know? So if you think you're the guitarist, then you'll have death, either because music will stop or the body will stop. But if you see yourself deeper than that, then there's no veil, no block between spirit world, physical world. You're always in spirit world. You just watch yourself playing guitar or playing certain instruments or cooking certain food. So the realism of it over a period of time, you discover is you are more in spirit world than you are in physical world, because you never truly incarnate. You just watch this play of this guy doing certain things. And this is kind of almost provable, because as soon as you lose the identity of music, you pick up the identity of cooking, and now you're a cook. And then you become taxi driver or truck driver or farmer or whatever. That's the false identity. So the truth is, you're much more than that false identity.
Is there like no, and this is going to be throwaway again almost. You ever seen that film Clash of the Titans, the old one, the 80s one?
Yeah, probably.
It's where you've got the gods looking down and they're sort of like laughing on the people on the earth. is there a version of me and you up there laughing now at us having this conversation?
Yeah, the consciousness that looks through your eyes is the consciousness that looks through my eyes.
So I am you.
You are me, and I am you in a consciousness form. Yeah. Well, it's no form in consciousness. In the consciousness realm, there is the looking through eyes. So in effect, then your answer, your story is almost true, but it's a bit dramatical, you know. And the consciousness is watching, the spirit, the unified spirit, the oneness is watching a play of life called one name and a play of life called another name. One's a farmer, one's a chef, and that's the way it is. So you wake up to the reality that you're not the physical identity and you're not this role that you're forced to play, that society has forced you, but what am I beyond that? So kind of the analogy is kind of right, but not in a multifaceted form, but in a singular form, which is why we get the phrase "we're all one." Oneness exists not in this world, but what looks into this world is the unity.
Oh, I like that phrase. What looks into this world. You've got some good phrases today, Mark, and I enjoy I enjoy those muchly. Okay, so here's the next one. I saw from your top 10 things that most dead people want you to know list from your website. Number 5 is life there is hugely better than here on Earth.
Yeah.
What have you learned about there?
Yeah.
And what makes it better than this?
Yeah, well, if we go back to our stories, I mean, let's make it relatable in terms of experience. Think of the angry person and the loving and peaceful person. Yeah, think of it in terms of vibration. Which one's the heavier vibration? Which is the lighter vibration? You would say anger is a heavier, and let's call it love is a finer vibration. You know, is the body a heavy vibration or a fine vibration? You'll say it's a heavy vibration. So all that is light in terms of vibration is nearer to your true self, and the heaviness belongs to the physical world.
Okay.
So you could almost say the physical world you are seeing, if you really caught into it, is the hell realm, and that's the heaven realm, if you want. And they're not terms that I particularly like, but the heaviness of here in the physical world, we've got anger, frustration, guilt, blame, shame, pride, etc. But in spirit, because there's a unified form and the joining together of everything, there's love, peace, contentment, etc. And you can experience them here. You don't have to wait till you get there. Do you know? So why not just have it now? Don't worry about what's on the other side. Just be at peace and love now. And that's the bit you'll take with you anyway. You remember the people who love you more than the people who gave you $50, you know? Unless you don't give me back, then I'll remember you.
And I will follow you to the depths of time, you know. I'm gonna have one final question for the Koit Zone, and I may already have the answer to this based on previous stuff we've said, but I want to read out the question anyway. Are there famous people there, or is it in no way hierarchical? I.e., are there famous spirits in the spirit world? As in, they weren't dead famous people from here. They're like well-known spirits. Do you know what I mean? Or is it the all is one and therefore there is no hierarchy?
Well, look at it that in terms of vibrational rate rather than fame.
Okay.
I mean, if you leave here and your vibrational rate is heavier for whatever reason, then you'd need a lot more of the healing process, and you're almost guaranteed reincarnation almost straight away because you're full of desire. Do you know what I mean? And full of karma. So it's almost one breath in spirit, and you're probably born again because you're compelled into life one more time. You know. As your vibration becomes lighter, again on this side, and you become more peaceful and loving, then your desire rates are lower. Your karma is lessened. So then you spend longer in spirit, and you may come back by more choices, that I will witness this life being lived again. I'll watch another life, or the karma of that life unfolding. Which is like going to the movie theatre and sitting in the audience and watching a play and thinking, I'll watch number 2 or number 3 or number 4 and see how this unfolds, The secret is to not know you're in the play, to know that you're in the audience, and this stops the reincarnation process because you're not taking part in karma anymore, because karma's on the movie screen. It's not in the spirit seats, and you watch the whole thing play out, and you can just choose to get up and go and say, okay, that's the end of that. Let's move on. So are you compelled to live again or not?
Are you?
Okay. I think you get to a certain point that you start to shed your karma and feel more at peace with everything. And even now, death, it almost excites me.
I know what you mean.
I'm kind of ready, do you know what I mean? And if it happens tomorrow, then so be it. It's okay. I'm only going home. I'm going home to this light and peace and love, and that doesn't sound too bad to me. People don't have problems, do they? Do you know what I mean? When you go to 10 o'clock at night or whatever, you don't have a problem going to sleep. You kind of look forward to it, most people, most of the time. Do you know what I mean? It's the waking up people don't like. It's in getting up to live the life again, isn't it?
Back into the pain of the body, yeah.
It's the pain of, not just the body, but this whole world I've got to live. And I've got to live this again. But if you watch yourself when you wake up, there's a glimpse of truth right there that so you're starting to come round from sleep, and you start to awake, and your mind, if you watch it, it takes a little bit of time before your mind kicks in and says, oh, I've got to do this today, and I've got, do you know what I mean? That little gap between awake and asleep, between asleep and awake, there's a little gap there. And it's a little gap that you're awake, but you're fully in peace, and you perhaps even don't know who you truly are right there. You're just aware, and in your mind hasn't started yet. Now, it's there for everybody, that little gap. If you look, you'll see it. And that little gap says, well, I'm conscious, I'm in the world, but I'm not wearing the pain of body and life yet, the obligations of life. And if you can sit there and sit in that presence more often, then life isn't so bad. You choose to pick up life, and you put it on, Now, life is perfectly fine, but then what you bring to it causes the pain, anger, frustration, resistance, etc. Underneath it, it's actually all right.
Just got to get to that all right stage again, haven't you, in the waking state? Yeah, that's right. I like that.
It's kind of not that hard. It takes time, but it's not that hard. And you kind of see it by if I'm not a music. I thought I got
that one. Yep, artist.
Not a guitarist. What am I? If I'm not living in this country, what am I? And you strip all this away, and you realize that there's something else that's there.
I completely agree, and actually, you've given me a lot of food for thought, and I like that a lot, because sometimes it can take a lot for me to branch into new patterns of thought. So thank you for that, by the way. It's a gift. Now we are going to take a sideways jaunt into the Koit zone. Koit zone! Now in the Koit zone, I would just ask you inane, irreverent questions. So just answer best you can. We will start with, have you ever been bitten by an animal?
Yes. you want long answer? Or
Elaborate. Yes, yeah. They're not one-word answers to these, by the way.
Yes, I have been bitten by a dog and spiders and whatever else, bees or anything, yes, I have. Um, nothing, nothing serious.
But you have been, so that's good. We'll tick that one off. What is your favourite sweets? Or what are your
As it,
favourite sweets?
are we talking dessert? Lemon meringue pie.
Oh, that's a goodie, isn't it?
Yeah, and sometimes ice cream. See, that's a good one because my parents, my mother used to use ice cream as a reward when I was a child. If you're good, you know,
Mm.
now I can afford to buy my own ice cream. And I've got to be careful because I'd have it 3 times a day, every day.
Because you're
So I've got to
good
be,
every day, yeah.
yeah. Mm.
Do you have
But,
the ice cream on the lemon meringue pie?
to the side if necessary.
Oh,
Yeah, side so I can chop and change a bit. Mm.
that's it, good stuff. Next one. Who would play you in the movie of your life?
God, who would play me? Anybody that's game, I guess, not really bothered. Anybody that wants to experience it, you can have a go. Um, no interest in anybody playing my life. I think it's one of those lives that have been lived. I've enjoyed it. I'm gonna enjoy it for a bit longer yet. And um, there's no movie star there,
No one could do you justice.
Somebody that I aspire to be. Mm.
Yeah, indeed. What is the worst bodily injury you sustained?
Worst bodily injury.
Yeah.
I actually had a knee issue that the body torn cartilage, thin meniscus, arthritis, and bursitis, all at the same time in a knee, and it's all kind of whatever.
Oh God.
Um, long ago actually, and now it's on the healing process, so it's better. Have broken the odd bone, but that's a process that's going to take longer to recover and get over.
Yeah, knee injuries are not the nice ones. Is there a place you've not been to yet that you do want to go and see?
Yes, there are. There's little parts of India that I want to go to. I'm not a city person anymore, although they're convenient places to go, and I want to be in somewhere remote, where there's just nothing and nobody, which is going to be difficult in India, but they're about somewhere.
Cool. Athletically, what were or are you good at?
As a child, I was good at swimming and running.
So were you good at cycling, and then you could be a triathlete, you know?
Did cycle for a while as well, and I did do a triathlon.
Oh, you did. Fair play.
Yeah, enjoyed it, and but once I've done it, I've done it. Don't need to do it again. So I enjoyed the whole thing. In Perth, we have jellyfish in the river. So
Okay.
triathlon river can be non-poisonous, but just putting your hand on a big jellyfish kind of stirs you. You know what I mean? And you've got a handful of mush.
Yeah, that's not
Anyway,
nice.
that's me. Anyway, so I did do triathlon, left it behind.
Okay, here's a completely random one for you, and I'll give you the explanation afterwards. I have a vegetable on my desk. Can you guess what the vegetable is?
A vegetable. It would be a
Yeah.
potato.
Weirdly enough, it's this,
What is it?
which is a runner bean, oddly shaped. I found it in my pocket yesterday. Obviously, picked it a couple of days before and just found it. I don't know why. There you are. What is your favourite TV program?
It changes all the time. From history, it would have been Faulty Towers.
Great choice. Great choice. Yeah.
There wasn't enough of them. There was only 9, I think,
I
or
think it was 12,
something.
something small anyway.
Yeah, loved it.
Great
Yeah, so
stuff. Great choice.
Hmm. Hmm.
Are there any words that you have trouble saying?
Just get back 15 minutes in the recording and
There
everything.
you go. Um, would you eat the second Twix?
Now I would, yeah. But I know I'm doing it, and I just enjoy it.
Get it
Yes.
down, yeah.
Like a sword swallower.
That's it. Straight in. What is, sorry, Star Wars or Star Trek?
Star Wars.
I
Mhm.
like both, but it's still a great choice. So either or would have got the thumbs up there. So fair play. Um, Here's a one I like to ask a lot of people, but it's an interesting one because you don't often think about it. What is the best sound in the world?
The best sound.
Sound, yeah.
God. Um, the gentle lap of ocean on sand. Do you know, it rushes up and the sand makes a noise as it
Mm,
goes.
that,
Yeah,
yeah,
love
it's a
that.
great sound. I do as
Mm,
well. Um,
mm.
a lot of people say rain on the window is one of my favourites as well, but water seems to be involved in a lot of them.
Yes. I can imagine.
It's lush. Um, you have a choice of these three superpowers. Which are you choosing? So you've got flight, invisibility, or indestructibility. Which one are you going for?
Flight, invisibility, or instructability.
Yeah.
Probably flight.
Why?
Uh, yeah, freedom.
Yeah, I would
Hmm.
also choose the same.
Yeah,
I'd love to
yeah.
fly. I think most people would, wouldn't they?
Maybe, yeah. I think I'm already feel that indestructibility a little bit because of I believe my essence is non-physical, if you know what I mean. So a
Hmm.
bit of a glimpse of that. So hmm.
That is the end of the Coit Zone. Thank you for doing that with me. I do have one adjunct question in relation to the flight, actually, that's just popped into my head. In the higher vibration land, the spirit world, if you so call it that, can we fly there if we choose to?
The flight requires effort. What if you did it with thought?
Yeah.
So you can do it with thought now. Um, in terms of one of the groups and classes I used to run was sit with somebody in another country, another city, and describe their kitchen, you know, or their garden, or whatever it is. And you can go and you can have a look, and you can describe somebody else's kitchen, and it works quite well. In the process of thought is mind related, of course, and generated from mind. And this is the bit of letting the mind be still and accessing that body of knowledge, which is available to everybody. And again, it's just a case of training yourself and learning how to do it.
Awesome. Mark, we have two final questions and then we will wrap up. So the first of which is, what else do you like to do in your downtime? Any activities or guilty pleasures?
Yeah, I'm a reader, so I will sit and read. But sometimes I can, let's say, just take a book to on holiday to a pool, and I may not even read it. I can be just content sitting and watching the world go by. Is that a guilty pleasure? Maybe not, but possibly. But I just enjoy peace.
Well,
Mm,
that's amazing on its own, isn't it?
enjoy peace. Just find it and enjoy it. Sit in it. No? Mhm.
Quality. And the last question, what are you currently working on? Are there any projects you've got on the go?
Oh, I've always got 100 projects on the go. There's this predictions and manifestation club that's on the way. There's a couple of others. I'm teaching a bunch of people to work and find unconditional love. So we've got to go right, not conditional love, unconditional. So we're working into that part of the process as well. I teach people about how to find themselves on the inside. Some people want to go through text, sacred text, and see all the learning of some of the texts in there, not from a religious point of view, but from a understanding point of view. I'm actually designing a process at the moment where people can understand their own process of awakening. Where are you on that level? Do you know? Do this test, find out. Are you number one and number two, etc.? So I'm working on a process to do that too. I want to take what I describe as mediumship, or the access to knowledge, and explore what that means in other ways, not just contact the dead, but what's going on with the soil, what's going on with life, etc. Science, how can we change this experiment? If we can access knowledge, then let's bring that knowledge into the world for use.
Amazing. Very noble goal indeed. Mark, you've taught me a lot today during this one. A lot has been fascinating, and I love to hear fascinating things. So thank you ever so much for coming on. What I would say is, everyone check out the links in the description to Mark's socials, Mark's site, etc. If you want to hook up with him for like some sessions and stuff, it's all available through his website. So please check those out. Mark, thank you ever so much for coming on. It's been much appreciated.
Okay, my pleasure. Take care. Thanks.
Goodbye, everyone. Bye-bye. To watch other KoitCast episodes, please click the image top left. To subscribe to my channel, please click the image top right. Please like and share to help KoitCast grow, and most importantly of all, please click the notification bell so you never miss an upload.